Hi, so this is my last video. I wanted to do one kind of just to wrap up. First, everything that I learned over this process, like the things that are sticking with me the most. And second, to talk a little bit more about what's next for me, because I am by no means done with designing my life, but I am done with this little video email series. So first, I have 5 main points that I discovered throughout the chapters and also just through the process in general that I have been reflecting on and that I wanted to share. So first was that honestly, I have never really considered taking time off work before. I never would have thought to not get a job before I left one, but I think that this break has been so helpful just in terms of like clearing my head. So I recognize that I'm very lucky to have been able to financially been able to take a couple months off. But I think a lot of people can, and like, or at least a lot of the people watching this video can, but it's kind of like the fear, because definitely there is fear of like knowing that I do have an end date by which like I won't financially be able to do it anymore. But if you can process that stress and if you can handle it in a healthy way, the break has been so helpful for me because I can tell my mind is just more clear. And so the options that I've been considering in the last week or two for my next job have so many more options than what I would have considered 6 weeks ago if I was doing this with my previous job, because I had so many emotions connected to that previous job and just everything going on with it, that it was limiting what I was seeing as my options for doing next. And so while I think that I've obviously financially taken a little hit in the last 2 months and I like just spent a little more time alone and things like that, I actually think in the long term, the time off and the money that I haven't been gaining in the last 2 months will actually make up for itself, because I'll 100% make a better decision. So that's just the first thing. I'm happy to talk more about that with anyone if they are considering something similar, because there's definitely pros and cons. The second thing is, okay, so I had to move because I think because it was dark, it was being like extra pixely anytime I moved, and it was kind of like giving me a headache. So let me pick up where I left off. So the second main takeaway I have is the idea that life design is continuous. I think I always thought that if I would take a break, then I would figure out, okay, here's exactly what my next 5 years look like, and kind of like some divine inspiration would come down, and all of a sudden one day I would know what I was meant to be doing. And even though when you think about it and you hear people say over and over again that's not how it happens, you still think that you can put things together with your perfect plan. And this just made me, I think it really stuck with me this time that I will forever be designing my life, and that is life. And so I'm not trying to get to a destination. I'm just trying to live and be happier living, and I can continuously tweak and just like continuously make it even better. So it's like I'm forever working on a piece of art rather than working towards being done with that piece of art, which gives me a weird sense of freedom than I had before. So even though I finished the book, I am not done designing my life. Even once I make a few more decisions, I will not be done designing my life, because I will always be evolving as a person, and I will always be thinking in this designing my life mindset from here on out. The third the third biggest takeaway for me was the idea of a joy-filled life is a coherent life. You always hear people saying they want to be happy, they want, they want to be content, they want to find joy, and like you kind of feel like it's this like unattainable, like what does happiness even mean? And I love this definition of how simple it is it's just about coherency. Life is like, you will be happy, content, joyful, however you want to call it, if how you think about life and the things you believe in, you live those out. And so it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with what I believe. I don't agree with what someone else's believes. I don't understand whatever. The belief itself isn't what's hard. It's all you need to do is write that down, figure out what you believe, and then try to build a life that matches that as close as possible. And then it stops being about the comparing and all these other things, because the coherency is what brings joy itself. And so I do want to try to like keep a regular practice of somehow checking, is what I'm doing and it is how I'm spending my time matching what I believe, and maybe even like seeing, do I believe the same things, or is that evolving? So I don't want to say like I'm going to commit to doing that every month or something that's unrealistic, but I do want to try to find a way to like check in on my life coherency. And that's probably how I will continue to tweak my designed life from here on out. Fourth thing, second to last thing, is just some of the exercises around nonlinear thinking really stuck with me. So like the mind mapping, when you just wrote out a bunch of random words and started to see how they connected, and then from there went into designing your odysseys. In the past, when I've tried to design out my life options, I've been really stressed and kind of frozen when it came to writing it. But after coming from like a mindset of brainstorming, when I know when you brainstorm, there are no wrong answers, and then doing that first before you go into something like stressful, like designing your life, really helped me like put pen to paper. And I wasn't nervous to say, yeah, maybe option 2 is to start a company, which like I never would have said that before in front of anyone, because I feel like an imposter saying that. So I think taking those like some of those specific exercises of nonlinear thinking, but also just the idea of forcing people into a free and nonlinear mindset before they're doing something stressful, whether it's running exercise for other people or like for myself. I will take that away and use that in other places. And I think that also ties to this idea of a nonlinear life. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself because every job I've had since college, I feel like I've liked it more and more. I've gotten closer and closer to what my ideal is. I've moved up in each one. I've got more responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. And so like with each step, I kind of feel more and more pressure to say like, okay, well, I liked this one at this level, so that means the next one I need to like at this higher level, and I need to do more, and I need to do this. And it kind of puts you into this mode of feeling like you have less and less room for error, and the risk for failing is higher and higher. And it like, I think it was giving me this expectation of these like these external expectations that I felt like I needed to live up to be happy. But at the end of the day, that stuff actually doesn't matter to me as much as it matters to them. And I don't even know who them is and why like this linear progression like what's having such a hold on me. So I think I'm going to take that away too, where like, you know what, if like my next job, if I don't like it as much as my previous job, that's not a failure. That's okay. It's a continuous life design. I learned something, and it's okay if it doesn't follow a perfect progression. And last but not least is obviously you guys, like doing this process with other people involved was at the beginning terrifying. I still, every time I send something out, I feel like I'm spamming you. And so like I always hesitate a little bit, but it just made me do it. Like the fact that I said in front of people, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do every exercise, I'm going to send out a video each time. Like even today, I was feeling a little tired this afternoon, but then Jimmy, thanks Jimmy, texted me being like, I just watched one of your videos, and it re-energized me to be like, okay, I'm going to film this last one and I'm going to do it. And so like one, obviously just thank you, I'm so appreciative, but two, learning wise, I need to continue to involve people in the different projects and decisions I'm making, because I'm so lucky to have so many like genuine, caring, intelligent, like just like good people in my life. And like the fact that you're willing to even watch a single video and like sometimes reply to my crazy stream of consciousness like thoughts really, really helps me. And so just incorporating people in any types of processes like these is invaluable. And I don't think I would have finished it in the same way without having done that. So those are my 5 big learnings. How, for me, valuable taking a break was thinking about life design as a continuous process rather than something you do once. Understanding that joy-filled simply means a coherent life. remembering to incorporate nonlinear thinking and be okay with like a nonlinear life, and last, incorporating people in hard things that you're doing. Those are my biggest takeaways, and I'm really grateful to the authors of the book for helping me learn all those things along the way. And so to wrap up, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's next for me. You all know that I did make one big decision so far with regards to just my general lifestyle, which is signing up for a remote year. I am so excited every time I think about it. I started making my to-do list today, and there's a lot to do, like vaccinations, visas, packing, I need to get rid of my apartment, like a lot to do, but it's really exciting. I think I'll learn a lot about myself, and also like what I like and don't like in terms of like being on the move and lifestyles, and so that's immediately what's next for me for the next 2 months, is just like everything I need to do to prep for that. That's going to be on the top of my list. And also I'll be sending out probably a separate email to a little wider audience with like more details about exactly when I'm going, where I'm going, so people can, if they want to, come visit me. And I'm thinking about doing like a similar video series or some kind of written series as I'm going on the program. So I expect to hear from me some way to sign up for that in the next month or so. So that's like big chunk number one of what I'm doing from here. And then number two is continuing on the designing your life process, specifically for me for the work component. And so if you remember from my Odysseys and from my prototyping video, there's a few things I'm exploring in parallel. One is more like contract freelance work for project management, product management, something I can do a few days a week, fully remote, while I do some side projects like potentially building a community to help people go through processes like these, like kind of a goal setting community, something like that. And also exploring sticking kind of with like a full-time product job, something that I get back on the team. I am working on potentially a social good product, or a product that I believe is helping people in some way, and exploring those options. So like all three of those things I'm spending the next month or two on. I've already started today getting back into the kind of resume updates and outreach to people. I've had the first person who I reached out to, not knowing her at all, but to do a prototype interview. She replied and said yes, and we're getting coffee in New York. So that was fun. I reached out to two other people who haven't replied, so like mixed bag, but I'm still following the process, and I think that'll help me make the best decision of how to use my time while I'm on remote year for work, not only to make money, but also like for challenge and learning and the other things that work is for me. So continuing that will take up basically all of my time over the next month or two, and hopefully I'll have somewhat of an answer before I leave on March 3rd. I'm also hoping to continue all MBA throughout the process, and hopefully can coach as much as they'll let me. And yeah, that's what I'll be doing from here, prepping for a remote year and continuing designing my life process on my work. And I guess that's the end. I just want to wrap with like a huge thank you. Like I said, I can't believe anyone even watched like half of one video. So thank you for your help along the way. If anyone else wants to do this process, I am here. I am like happy to read your random stream of consciousness thoughts via email, video, text, anything. I'm here to help in any way I can, because you've helped me so much. So thank you. And I guess here's to an awesome 2019 and the rest of my life of designing my life. Bye.